Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, hide your Donkey Kong Jr. math, hide your quest for Camelot. Nintendo is taking games off NSO. Go to the next room, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes to the next room with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I am joined, as I am always joined, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. We've got a good show for you today. We're going to be talking about the news from the week, including a recap of the Pokemon Presents. And then on Thursday, we are going to be doing the ABCs of Nintendo console launches. But Mark, in the meantime, how's it going?
It's going great. Can I ask you a question, Patrick?
Yeah, you have to.
Oh, great. When is the last time you bought new silverware?
The last time, I think when we moved into did we buy new silverware when we moved into our most recent apartment? When I say most recent, I mean like 8.5 years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the last time I bought new silverware was when I moved to LA. So over a decade ago.
That's a long time ago.
It is a long time ago.
Yeah.
How often should you be buying new silverware?
I don't. There can't possibly be like an answer to that, right? Like silverware lasts like forever,
right?
So like I think you should only buy it when you need more.
So then, do you
or need different?
So do you think that there is, like, if you're a silverware company,
sure, right?
Are you looking at a long graph of sales, and there's as population decline begins, are you nervous about the future of silverware sales?
Not at all, because there are restaurants.
Sure.
Right? And restaurants will always need silverware, and restaurants open and close all the time. And I bet that a lot of silverware, like some I'm sure gets donated. But like I think you open a new trendy restaurant, you're not about to like go to a St. Vincent de Paul or a like thrift shop and get, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're not going to get used silverware. You're going to get new.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So I think they're doing fine. Mark.
Yes.
Today is Tuesday, March 4th. Do you know what that means?
It means that we are...
I was teeing you up for something different. I wanted you to go, no, what does it mean?
Okay.
It means, Mark, that the collected edition of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle source book is on shelves today.
Oh, that's so exciting. And I was never going to get there.
I
so
know.
I'm glad that you stepped in.
Which is why I thought you were going to be like, oh, yeah, what is it, Pat?
Yeah, I was trying to math the math where I'm like, something switch. We're a month minus 2 days from the Nintendo Switch 2 presentation. But this is much more exciting.
I don't know if it's more exciting. It's more exciting for me, but the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Encyclopedia that I wrote, the source book, is now collected and bound and on shelves in Walmarts and Targets and everywhere where you can buy a book. So if you are interested in that thing, if you've been holding out on buying the individual issues, you can go and get the collected edition of it now.
Yeah, congratulations. That's so cool.
Thank you. I got my copy over the weekend. That they
spelled your name right?
They spelled my name right.
Oh, phew.
But replaced all the words with worse words.
Lots of swears in this version.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I mean. They're morally bad words. But yeah, that's out there. And, I haven't really been plugging the source book for a while, but just wanted to remind folks that that's out there and that it is like physically out there in the world right now. So,
wow, to have your release date be a month minus 2 days from when the Switch 2 presentation is.
Speaking of, today is March 4th. We know this. That is 29 days away from the Switch 2 Direct. Now, Mark, you and I have sort of sworn off predictions about the Switch 2 at this point, right?
Yep.
It's not, for whatever reason, it's not fun for us to do it right now. But it could be fun for you, listener, to come up with some predictions for the Switch 2 and for the Switch 2 Nintendo Direct, and email us, Nintendo Cartridge Society @gmail.com. And we are going to compile all of these predictions into one episode that we're going to do the week before the showcase. So get them to us by March 26th at noon. and then that'll be the episode for the next day is us talking about everyone else's predictions. And hey, whatever you think's going to happen, whatever you want to happen, whatever you're afraid is going to happen, great fodder for conversation.
Yeah, all fair game.
All fair game.
We want to hear it all.
Yes, and I guess no, let's keep it to email. I was gonna say like Discord, sure, but like let's keep it to email. Email us there and let us know what you think is gonna happen, or what you hope is gonna happen, or like I said, what you're afraid is going to happen.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've had one of these.
Yeah.
Well, I guess not that long, because we just had a listener feedback episode last week. But it's been a really long time since we've had like predictions from listeners.
Right.
And so I think this will be a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, and I think the last time we did like a really meaty predictions episode was you, me, Acevedo, and Emily, right? Then we were predicting the June Nintendo Direct in 2024. Was it just last year? I think it was just last year.
I can't remember. Or was it 2023?
Or maybe it was 2023. Boy, that's too long ago.
Time is a mystery.
We should have them back on. But yes, so now, listeners, it is your job to do the predicting. And I'm looking forward to receiving all of your emails. Patreon.com/Nintendo Cartridge Society if you would like to support us, and you're doing so at the 8 or 16-bit levels. You get access to our once-a-month episodes of miniseries like NCS Arcade. We just put out a new episode.
Yes, about Toe Jam and Earl, the Sega Genesis classic.
Yep.
Cult classic, maybe. That was a lot of fun to play and a lot of fun to talk about. And for March, we're going to be talking about Okami.
That's right. We are going to be talking about Okami. I don't know how much of a draw Toe Jam and Earl is for people, but it may surprise you to learn that we really enjoyed the game.
Yeah, we loved it.
We are kind of glowing in the episode, so check it out if you haven't yet. And also, if you have any thoughts about Toe Jam and Earl, I'm not really expecting too much in the way of people having memories or any feedback about the game itself. But email us, Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com, and we will include those questions and our responses to them in our listener feedback episode, which is, as you know, available for free to everyone who follows us on Patreon at any level, including the free level. Mark, are you back with information about when Matt and Emily were on the show
Yes, and
together?
it was, in fact, June 2024.
Okay, great. So it hasn't been that long.
It hasn't been too long.
Okay, great. And then the last thing is, I mentioned the Discord already. If you would like to be in the Discord so you can chat with people, especially as this Nintendo Direct nears and as it happens, people will be discussing it live. Email us, Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com. We'll send you an invitation. You can jump right in there, talk about Nintendo all day long. All right, Mark, you ready to talk about what we've been playing this week?
Let's do it. I have been playing Thank Goodness You're Here.
Yeah.
Which was a game that released a few months ago, and is like a digital eShop title, very British. You play as like
How British?
So British.
Okay. More British or less British than Mr. Bean?
I would say an equivalent amount of Britishy.
Okay, more British,
Britishness.
More British or less British than Wallace and Gromit?
I would say maybe. Oh, that's a good question. Have you seen the most recent Wallace and Gromit movie?
I have
not yet.
No, I've not.
But I've also heard that's very good. I would say an equivalent amount of Britishness.
Okay, I'm trying to calibrate where
it's difficult to
more or less British than absolutely fabulous.
Less, dare I say, posh.
Oh,
than
I love it.
Than absolutely fabulous.
I love it.
Yeah. So I had heard really glowing things. We were on Super Gamer Boys with Garrett just a few weeks ago, and he had been playing it and spoke really highly of it. And so I was excited to check it out. And I am having a lot of fun with it. I have no sense of how long the game is. I think I've been playing for maybe 45 minutes. I could be just barely at the beginning. I could be halfway through. One thing that I am enjoying it, I do think that it's very silly and fun. But one thing that I was it's much more linear than I was expecting. Like the game.
So the gameplay conceit is it's like a puzzly kind of experience? Or
That's
like
what
a,
I was expecting.
Okay.
I was expecting it to be more of like a puzzle experience where you encounter a situation and you have to figure out how to solve it with like puzzle mechanics.
Sure.
And that's not really what it is. It's more like you encounter a situation, but there's only one path that you can be funneled down. And as you go down that path, like ridiculous things happen. It's very funny. It's very cheeky, but it doesn't require any like problem solving skills other than let me just literally like kick everything until I find where I'm supposed to go next.
Sure.
And so the game is very funny. Like surprising things happen. There's lots of jokes. It is really humorous, but I think I was expecting more from like the puzzle elements of it, and they just basically don't exist.
And is Matt Berry the main character? Matt Berry is one of the voice actors.
Oh,
listed
I
on
don't
here.
know. Could be.
Well,
I mean,
okay.
there's lots of voice acting in it.
Gotcha.
But you play as like just a office worker that's basically sent to a small British town, and you encounter all these different types of like crazy characters. So I'm not sure who Matt
Gotcha.
Berry is in it. Maybe he's the voice of the of your character, but I don't feel like you talk at all or very much. So must be one of the other voices.
So on IMDb, all of the actors are just listed as voice.
Oh, okay.
As their characters. So
Yeah.
yeah, maybe it's all just like townspeople stuff.
But it is very fun. I guess like depending on how long it is, I think I paid $15 for it, and might be a bit much. Maybe one to get on sale.
Sure. Well, we can use that as a pivot point to what I've been playing because Mark, I picked up Ninja 5.0.
Oh, okay.
So Ninja 5.0, as we sort of hinted at last week, is a re-release of a Game Boy Advance game from Konami, from that brief period where the Game Boy Advance was a relevant going concern. Is called Ninja Cop in other territories, and is like now mostly notorious for being like a kind of a fun game. But also being an absurdly priced, like on the secondhand market cartridge, right? That like if you want to buy a new in-box Ninja 5.0, it's going to set you back like $1,200, right? Like
oh my
really,
gosh,
like really an expensive cartridge. But now you can buy it, and it has a handful of quality of life improvements and like little anime cutscenes at the beginning, but is largely just Ninja 5.0 as it was like originally presented on the Game Boy Advance, which means it is a reasonably fun ninja game with like kind of annoyingly designed levels where there's just like stuff you have to like jump over that aren't like obstacles. It's just like a thing in your path that you know makes it so you can't just walk straight across. And then like the combat's a little like slow and clunky. There's a neat grappling hook mechanic that like you grapple onto specific points, and when I say specific points, it's actually kind of like anything, any platform, and then like swing around with like a surprising amount of like flexibility and like how you swing and like build up momentum and stuff. So there's some fun sort of maneuvering with that, but it doesn't always jive with the platforming, right? Like that you'll be kind of like switching between platforming and using the grappling hook. And it's kind of like I kind of wish I was just doing one of these instead of, you know, flipping between with your brain. So it's fun. I think I'll stick with it for like a little while. It's not. I was really hoping this was going to be one of those like, oh my god, like
totally.
you know, long lost classic. And it's like no, like long lost for sure, but like it's kind of just like an okay fun experience.
Is it republished by Konami?
I believe so. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think so.
How much did you pay for it?
Well, that's yes, and this was the pivot point. How much do you think I paid for it? It is just a Game Boy Advance game with anime cutscenes at the beginning of it.
$30.
So $24.99.
Okay.
So $25, which I think is too much for me, right? Because like, you know, Nintendo adds a new Game Boy Advance game to Nintendo Switch Online. Not every month, but like, I guess it's probably they
every once in a while.
Every once in a while they add one. But But yeah, it feels like the same sort of level of reward. And when like we just got Wario Land 4 on there, I'm like, well, maybe I should just play Wario Land 4, So yeah, I don't know. It's cool that this game that is, otherwise limited to, I mean, realistically, you would just have to pirate it in order to play it, right? But now you can pick up a copy legit. So it's okay. Is I guess what I'm coming down on.
Yeah, the novelty of it being released again is interesting to me.
Yeah, no, it's definitely like it's a curiosity. And I was just curious enough to actually like bite the bullet and buy it. Remember we talked about this and Glover last week?
Right.
And I feel like we were like, oh, it's the same sort of thing where it's like, oh, we're getting these two like older deep cut kind of games that were like big on Nintendo platforms, and playing Ninja 5.0 or what I've played of it has sort of like satiated me of that appetite for both. Like there was a bit where I was like, maybe I'm gonna get Glover and Ninja 5.0, and now I've played some Ninja 5.0 and I'm like, I'm good.
Sorry, Glover.
Sorry, Glover. You came out 2 days later and therefore too late. All right, Mark, are you ready to... that's not how I transition out of this. That's what we've been playing this week. Let's get into the new releases, and what we might be playing next week.
Nintendo Music was...
Gotta start with Nintendo Music.
Updated, as it has been for the past few weeks, months, whatever. You know what I'm saying. Both of our phones are going crazy with some sort of, like...
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, we have a public safety alert.
Oh, okay.
Okay, great. There's nothing we can do about that.
Nintendo Music.
Yes.
The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past was added. I feel like a good one after Super Mario Bros. 2 was added last week.
I mean, we conducted a whole music tournament with Greg Smith, and one of the tracks from The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past was crowned our best piece of Nintendo music. I won't reveal which one because people could still go back and listen to those episodes from like 6 years ago. But yeah, it definitely is a good one. Right?
Yeah,
and super fun to just like have that on there, especially after like kind of a couple dodgy weeks of Super Mario Brothers 2 and the like Mii Plaza, which the Mii Plaza stuff is at least like interesting, even if I don't really want to hear it. It's conceptually interesting.
And then today, March 4th, Carmen Sandiego is released on Switch.
So Carmen Sandiego is this is like the new release of Carmen Sandiego, based a little bit, I think, on the Netflix TV show.
It looks like it, yeah.
And it's been available on other platforms. But this is weird. I declare this to be weird. That the game is, or at least on Monday when we're recording this, was on sale for 20% off, but the sale ends the second the game is available to buy normally. So you can pre-order it for cheaper than you can buy it.
Well, I think that's to encourage pre-orders. I don't think it's that crazy.
I think it's a little, there's an element of like, and I guess there are probably reviews for this game out there already. I tried to look. When you put out a game just called Carmen Sandiego, the discoverability is awful, just terrible, right? So I was looking to see if like there were reviews of it, and I'm not really able to find any, which makes me wonder if there are like a review embargo or whatever. I just don't know. I feel like they're trying to trick people into pre-ordering it,
yeah, I see.
Before like word gets around that it's whatever it is.
Yeah, I feel like digital pre-orders are such an interesting thing because I digitally pre-order things like all the time.
Yes.
But there's no real benefit to doing so other than just that short dopamine hit of, like going through the process of buying something and being like, oh, great. Now when the new WarioWare game comes out, I've already bought it. And yet that's like the cycle that I'm in where it's,
Right. Yeah.
And so maybe because I feel like I've seen other publishers do a similar thing, and maybe it is to incentivize pre-orders because if you can get somebody to commit, then it's easier than if somebody's like seen it and they're like, oh, I'll get back to that. But
Right.
how often?
Even wish listing.
I've never bought anything on my wish list, even though they go on sale all the time. And I was
Right.
like, oh, when Coffee Talk goes on sale, I'll buy it. Coffee Talk has been on sale.
Coffee Talk is always on
like
sale.
every few months since I
Yes.
put it on my wish list like 5 years ago, and I've never actually bought it. So
Yeah, I mean that's an excellent point. Why do you think we do? Because I do think there is something when I pre-order a digital game. That's when I'm just like, I know I'm going to buy this anyway.
right.
Like it sort of doesn't matter what it ends up being. There are some games I'm just going to get no matter what. If there's a new Zelda game, I'm getting it no matter what. If it's a Nintendo game and it came out in 2024, I'm buying it no matter what. So like I did a fair amount of digital pre-orders for stuff, last year because it's just like, yeah, I'm gonna do it as long as I'm like in the eShop. I may as well like just hit the button and get it pre-ordered, and then it downloads on its own.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's not necessarily anything bad with digital pre-ordering. There's just not a huge advantage to it. Like with
Right.
physical pre-orders, made sense because you were trying to make sure that you got your copy,
Right.
or there was some sort of like incentive for pre-ordering. But that isn't really the case with digital pre-orders
Right.
most of the time. And for the most part, I've never really regretted pre-ordering a game, except I ended up enjoying it. But when I digitally pre-ordered The Outer Worlds on the
yes.
Switch release, they eventually patched it and made it run much better. And I played through the game even with kind of like the dodgy performance when it was initially released. But that was one where it was like, oof, I probably should have waited to see how it ran.
But it sounds like you had fun anyway. So
yeah, so
maybe
I
you
guess
shouldn't
really,
have.
what does it matter?
Yeah, what does it matter?
On Thursday, March.
Sorry.
No, yeah, go ahead.
There's also never been not never. There are frequently times when we wait to buy something until it comes out. It comes out, we buy it, we never play it.
Yeah, I mean, I've pre-ordered things and never played it.
Right.
So,
yeah, exactly. Like, it's the same. It's the same math.
Yeah. March 6th on Thursday, Suikoden 1 and 2 HD remaster, Gate Rune and Dunan Unification Wars is released.
Yeah. So the Suikoden 1 and 2 HD remasters. That's I feel like they've been. They were rumored for like a super long time and then kind of like re-revealed last year, and now they're like actually out on Thursday. I don't know these games like at all outside of like their reputation.
Yeah, same.
That they're just like cool RPGs with like 100 characters in them, and they're well written and all that kind of good stuff. I'm a little bit interested.
Okay.
So I'm pinning that right now. The Nintendo game for this month is a Xenoblade game. And maybe if I pin my interest on something else, that I won't be tricked into buying a Xenoblade Chronicles.
Yeah.
Maybe I won't be. Does it interest you at all?
I don't think so. I mean, honestly, I think Okami is going to take a lot of
That's a good
the
point.
gaming time that I have this month.
Yep. A fine good point. All right, great. Those are the new releases. Let's close this out. Which brings us to a regular segment on our show. It's time for 433. In 1952, American composer John Cage wrote a piece called 433, wherein a performer or group of performers didn't play their instruments for 4 minutes and 33 seconds. For the purposes of this show, our instruments are talking about Nintendo. So, for the duration of one performance of 433, Mark and I'll talk about something not at all Nintendo related, thus fulfilling the contract of the piece. Today, we're talking about yard work.
This is kind of not directly yard work.
Okay.
But so today we'll be talking about at least partly something not directly yard work.
Yeah.
But when I was younger, my parents they really wanted us as a family to like grow a garden.
Sure.
Like have like vegetables and stuff like that. And so there was like an area in the backyard that was fenced in. And basically, every year would be the same thing. We would, like hoe the ground and do all that kind of stuff. And then we would plant like corn and beans or tomatoes or whatever. And then one of them would grow.
Yeah,
and
great.
we would harvest that. And then the rest of it, like the corn would grow. And yeah, we'd take a little bit of corn or whatever. But it was like the act of planting it we would do every year.
Right.
We would clear out the garden from last year, put the new stuff in full of hope, and then like we would use one thing out of it, and then the whole year, then the next year we'd start all over again.
What happened there? Was someone supposed to be like taking care of the garden and just didn't, or?
Yeah, I think like exactly.
Yeah.
Like basically, we all just kind of lost interest.
Yeah, sure.
Life was going on. You know, I have a number of siblings, so life was just really busy. And then so it'd be like, okay, well, like we did the garden part of it.
I mean, I don't know if you did. I think you did the planting part.
Yeah,
of it.
we did the planting part of it.
Well, that's fascinating because we, my parents never grew anything useful, right? And like for the most part, didn't really grow anything. We just had like a huge grass yard that needed to be mowed. And as growing up as the only child identifying as a boy at that time, I sure did have to mow that lawn every summer, and it was so big and just like took forever. And we didn't have a riding mower or anything, just this like self-propelled thing that like like it had like a motor and everything.
Yeah.
But then you had to just like squeeze the handle and then it pulled forward. And I don't just like. You would smell like grass. You had to have like a pair of boots that were just for mowing the lawn. I didn't care for it, Mark, and it would take like an hour and a half.
Were you able to at least like listen to music and kind of zone out while you were doing it?
I did listen to like stuff on like my Discman or whatever. But the chore is so long that there's no CD that you have that will take up the whole time.
I feel like the worst part of mowing the lawn is having to empty the bag.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. It's terrible. It's not a good part of the chore
because you like release it from the lawnmower and it's already starting to fall out.
It's already everywhere. Yes. And then you got to get to wherever everyone has decided this goes.
And you're covered in loose grass clippings now. And it's just it's a humiliating exercise.
It is an absolutely humiliating exercise, which is why you and I both moved to the city and never had to do yard work again. All right, Mark, we were accompanied by the EBU Euro Radio Orchestra. Still pains me that I've been saying the name of that ensemble wrong for years. Mark, let's get into the news.
Hey, last week's Pokemon Presents. Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it.
It happened on Pokemon Day, which was last Thursday, February 27th.
Have you ever
6 a.m. Pacific time.
Have you ever been able to internalize Pokemon Day? That's February 27th.
No.
Okay, great.
I know it's in February.
Uh-huh.
But I would not be able to tell you that it's specifically February 27th.
Well, let's try to commit it to memory now. So 227. How do we do that? How do we remember? It's just the second to last day.
Yeah. How about you remember the 2?
Okay.
And I'll remember the 27.
Okay. But you already know that it's February.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you're just gonna remember when it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Great.
Yeah, I'll take that on for the group.
Okay. Great.
I will commit to memory.
Good.
That it's February 27th.
Okay. So just I'm gonna make a reminder for myself on a date in the future, and I will not tell you what that date is.
Okay, yeah.
And I will ask you, Mark, what day is Pokemon Day?
Okay, perfect.
And you have to respond.
February 27th.
Okay, perfect. Good.
All right, I'm branding that into my mind palace.
Yeah, very good.
February 27th.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of stuff is announced at these Pokemon Presents. I always think I did watch the presentation, not live, but I watched because it was just too early for me. But
it was pretty early.
I watched it later, and I really admire how stoic the presenters are in Pokemon Presents.
Yeah, sure.
Like the way that they have filmed the last few years of this, where it's like they're sitting directly across from you at a desk, basically.
Yes.
It's like you just got called into HR and are about to be fired.
And like their desks are decorated in like fun Pokemon kind of ways.
Yes.
But they are not cracking a smile.
This is not a fun situation for them.
No. But it doesn't. It also doesn't seem like it's a negative situation for them either. They're just like, here's what we have to tell you.
Yeah, it's another day at work
Right.
at the Pokemon Company. That part of it just makes me laugh. But both so stylish, both the presenters.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Like so stylish.
Yes.
Okay. So a lot of things are talked about at these Pokemon Presents, but we're not really Pokemon experts, and so we're honing in on two specific things.
Yes.
First of all, a new game was announced, Pokemon Champions, which is a multiplayer online Pokemon battler. So really just focusing on the battles. It's going to be multi-platform for mobile and, quote, the Switch family of systems.
Which, is this the first time we've heard this phrase used? The Switch family of systems?
I feel like
in
yeah.
official Nintendo stuff. Like, obviously implying that it's not just like the Switch and the Switch Lite and the OLED, but like it's going to be on Switch and Switch 2 is the implication here.
Yeah, and I wonder if that is different what is we're really just splitting hairs because we don't know at this point.
Right.
But is that different from saying that it's on Switch but will be on Switch 2 because it's backwards compatible?
I mean, that's a great question. Is like, are they like going forward going to be releasing games that are Switch 2 exclusive and then like Switch family of systems? Like, are they going to be changing that branding so that it doesn't feel like things are, gated to like the earlier generation? Like, no, this is for all the platforms. You
right.
know what I mean?
And does it imply that there's going to be, you can walk into a store and get a physical release for Switch 2,
right?
That will presumably be in a different sized box.
Yes.
Than if you buy it for Switch 1.
Right. Or the Switch family of systems.
Right.
I guess it's that those are still question marks, but it is interesting to hear the Pokemon Company, and so like sort of by extension Nintendo, using that language specifically.
They also later clarified that this new game, Pokemon Champions, will connect with Pokemon Home, and not all Pokemon are going to be available in the game to start, possibly ever. So like you won't be able to take any Pokemon from Pokemon Home and put it into Pokemon Champions. Only certain Pokemon will be supported. Same with like their only Pokemon that are in Pokemon Champions can be sent back to home, although I guess that's kind of self-evident.
Yeah, I think so. What's I mean, there's a complicated flowchart about how you can move Pokemon around, and like obviously with all of the Switch Pokemon games having Pokemon Home compatibility that way means that you'll be able to bring your recent Pokemon from the last 8 years of playing those games over to Pokemon Champions, which sort of makes this the like online modern day Pokemon Stadium.
Yes.
Right?
But only the Pokemon that are supported in Champions, which won't be all of them.
Which will not be all.
Yeah. No date for this, no even like release window, just an announcement of this new game.
Right. And is your read on that like next year? Like not certainly not before, right?
I have no idea. I really don't know what to make of it.
Yeah.
I feel like if it was coming this year, they would have
said something.
At least put a date on it, or at least put a 2025 on it.
Right. Because we do have a date coming up that we're going to discuss that is late 2025, right? So I sort of feel like if they had something that they were narrowing in on, like an earlier release, they would have said so.
But maybe they'll have a beta for this. Maybe they'll have like an online
beta
period.
I would actually bet they need to, right?
But like I think we mentioned last week when we were talking about the fact that the Pokemon Presents was going to exist. Next year is the 30th anniversary of Pokemon, so maybe it's something that they'll tee up as part of that. The other thing that you were alluding to is Pokemon Legends ZA got a release window,
which we now know that is how that is said.
Yeah, it's not Z-A. It'll be releasing in late 2025.
Yeah, which is very surprising to me. So late. What does late mean to you? It suggests to me that this is their November game.
That would make sense. Yeah, I would believe that.
Which also implies to me, and maybe this is a bad thing for me to assume because Arceus and was it Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl came out like right on top of each other, like within just a couple months, from November to January. But it implies to me that we will not be getting Gen 10 of Pokemon this year, which breaks the 3-year cycle.
Yeah, I think that they are really at least trying. I know that there's discussion online of like what Pokemon Legends ZA looks like.
Yeah, oh,
But
yeah.
I think they are. I think they're trying to do what everybody has been asking them to do for a long time, which is take a little longer between releases
Right.
and improve kind of like the performance um, of the games. And I also wonder, like we have talked a lot about, oh, there's a reason why they've stuck to this 3-year cycle, and it's because they know that their target audience is children, and children grow out of liking something very quickly. So if they can release a new generation every 3 years, that gives them this window from like 6 to 12 where they can get 3 generations in there.
Right.
Um, but wait, does that math work out? 4 generations, whatever. You know what I mean?
From 6 to 12, yeah, that like if you start with a new generation and then you get another one when you're 9, another one when you're
Yeah.
12, that like you've played now in 3 generations.
But
But if it's 4 years, then they've only landed it twice, and a lot of times like kids will only be around and plugged into it for a single new generation if it's every 4 years. But like 3, just like really, that's like the frequency at which you can get the most kids.
But I wonder, with the amount of Pokemon stuff that exists today
Sure.
and the different games, like, yeah, you may not get a new generation, but you can play like a bounty of mobile games. You have this new Legend series. There are so many different there's not just one Pokemon anime, there's like Pokemon Concierge. Like there's so many different touch points for Pokemon that
Right.
may be part of the reason why they're feeling more comfortable like skipping out on a year when we would normally have a new generation, is that there's so much more Pokemon stuff to fill
Yeah,
kids' minds with.
that's true. It's an excellent point. Like TCG Pocket is so big right now. And you mentioned Concierge already, but like yeah, there definitely are a number of other like tendrils out there that are like huge arms of the Pokemon operation that the next generation may not be that important to like their overall strategy right
Because
now.
think how different that was even like a decade ago. There was no Pokemon Go. There was
Yeah.
no, like you would get a new generation, and then in between those generations, you would get the either combined title, or occasionally you'd get like a sequel
Or a remake or something.
or
yeah.
like a mystery dungeon. But it just felt so less
Yes, that's right.
frequent.
There was just much less of it, and like with how much the mobile games that they talked about updates for include TCG Pocket, like I said, Pokemon Go, Masters, Unite, Sleep, Cafe Remix, and I know some of those are on other platforms as well. But like, yeah, that's a ton of games that are available to people with Switches and people that are playing on phones, and in the case of Unite, on the computer.
Yeah. So, yeah, maybe like I'm assuming for the 30th anniversary they will have a new generation,
Sure,
but
right.
it will also be interesting to see like what does that look like.
Yeah, this is the first time in 15 years that a third year has gone by and we're not getting a new generation. That's big. And they have to then in 2026 put out the new generation. Like that is a if they miss 2026, then it'll literally be the longest between Pokemon generations since they were introduced.
It's interesting to me that they've kept the Pokemon Legends branding for this, because it seems so different from what Arceus is.
I agree, because it's, instead of being like all out in the wild, it's all in the city. And is there time travel in this?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
It doesn't seem like it, right?
Right, but it's like in a modern setting where most of Arceus took place in the past, right?
Yeah, like all of Arceus takes
Yeah.
place like in the distant past. Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Just interesting that they've decided to stick with that branding. The starters this time are Chikorita, Tepig, and Totodile. Totodile.
Which, and again, we don't know the particulars here, but 2 of these are from one generation and another one is from another generation, which is strange that they're like, yeah, 2/3 of you guys from this game, but we got to get someone else. to like fill out this roster.
Looks like there's some sort of real-time action to the combat, including dodging attacks for the first time.
Yeah, dodging attacks and like attacks having like an area of effect, so you need to like aim where and when to use different abilities, which is very interesting to me, someone who gets bored of Pokemon combat. But I think it'll probably be frustrating to like Pokemon diehards, right?
Yeah, I don't know. It's because I feel like a lot of Pokemon diehards like agitate for change.
That's true.
And so, but it'll be interesting to see if this is one that they appreciate.
No, not that kind of change.
How?
But it is like reflective of the new capture mechanic in both Let's Go and Legends Arceus, that like you can throw the ball like outside of a menu-based combat situation and just like capture the Pokemon outright. That is objectively more action-based than it ever was in previous games.
That's what I was going to ask you. I couldn't remember if that's how it worked in Arceus because it seems like this still has
that.
Yes. But it's also adding that if you aren't able to catch just by throwing it, then you can send your Pokemon to like knock it out.
Which was also true of Arceus.
Oh, okay.
But, then it becomes like a normal Pokemon battle.
I see. So the way that my memory, anyways, is that the way that the Let's Go series worked was just like Go, where there was no option to knock it out. It was all about like throwing a Pokeball, capturing it, and if you couldn't do that, then you could use a stronger Pokeball, or you could give it like a berry or something.
Yeah, sure.
But I don't think there was any like option to send a Pokemon out to try to like knock it out.
Yeah. So I guess one of the things that is shown in this trailer is knockout catches. So like getting the Pokemon down to 0 hit points and then throwing a Pokeball at it. So normally that's not part of the game. You have to really like narrow in and like not deal too much damage to actually like kill the thing and throw a Pokeball before that. But it looks like they're because it's all still action based, that like you can knock its hit points down to 0 and throw a Pokeball at basically the same time.
Also, new episodes of Pokemon Concierge are premiering in September on Netflix.
We both really liked Pokemon Concierge.
Looking forward to that.
Amazing how like the first season of it, which was just 4 episodes, right? That it's like 3 short episodes about like Psyduck being stressed out, and then like a 4th episode which was like 3 times as long, and it's like Psyduck deciding it's okay to be different. Like, I don't know, it was really sweet at the end, and like had a strong like emotional core, but just looks incredible, right?
Yeah, I really liked the behind the scenes that they showed.
I
like,
did too.
you could see how tactile all of the creations are. It's
and
a lot
fuzzy.
of fun.
It seems like they'd be so fun to touch.
Yeah, that's pretty much everything we wanted to cover from Pokemon Presents.
Yeah. Do we want to talk a little bit about like how Legends ZA looks?
Sure, I don't really have a very strong opinion on it.
Yeah. I guess like my opinion on it is that it looks bad. Like the action of it, the gameplay of it looks fun, and I know that Pokemon gets away with a lot because they're fun, and what a great trade-off to make, right? Like if you have to trade graphics for something, trade it for fun. That's a perfect trade. But just watching the trailer, I was struck by how many times they'd be like near a building or something, and like you see that the texture is just like this like low resolution like PNG file just like stamped on there, and it's like, oh my god. Or like sometimes you'll see signs in the background that have like writing on them. Those are also super high or super low resolution, and just like it blocks a lot of like the sort of draw distance issues that Arceus had, but like I don't know, there are just too many things on screen for any of them to have any kind of like depth or shape or shading to them. Everything looks like flat and boring, and like I'm afraid I'm gonna have like a real aesthetic problem with this game.
I know it's dangerous to say with the way that Pokemon games have come out in the past few years, but it is like maybe 7 months away from release.
Okay, yeah, sure.
So maybe there will be some additional polish, but at the same time, yeah, you're like looking at it and you're like, I mean, not to be hyperbolic, but kind of looks like a Nintendo 3DS game in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I mean, yes, and yeah, I get the it's still 7 months away, or who knows how long. It's still a late 2025 away from us. But yeah, like I don't expect it to look any better when it comes out. It just like that's just the way a Pokemon game works. But like I enjoyed at least the first like 12, 15 hours of the last one of these Legends games. I'm absolutely gonna pick this game up, just because it's fun to interact with the Pokemon in this way, where you're running around a little bit more and actually feel like your character is an active part of the game instead of just like commanding Pokemon. But then I also want to move my Pokemon around. Like that seems cool.
Last Wednesday, Nintendo dropped an overview trailer for Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition. Previews dropped for the game last month, and I don't think we covered the new information about the game then either.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I think you and I are like we both see this one coming and we're like, cool, great, go with God. We don't we don't know. We don't get it.
Right. Yeah, I think that's true. I've avoided all the Xenoblade Chronicle games. I know that this one is unique from the others, but it still feels like a lot to me.
Right. Instead of a number, it has an X.
But I will say,
which is a kind of number.
I've always loved the world of this game, where like the expansive planet and even some of the stuff, the vistas that they're showing in the trailer, I just thought like look really exciting. The actual gameplay part of it doesn't necessarily interest me, but I do really like the world of it. So some of the things that are coming in this definitive edition include dual audio for the first time. So you'll have the option of both Japanese and English voiceover, which wasn't part of the first release. Graphical.
Was the first release just Japanese language?
Okay. Graphical improvements, many quality of life improvements, including the ability to change your party at any time.
Which, I don't know how that works in this game, but like that was one of the things that I absolutely loved about the Super Mario RPG remake. Because then it's just like your options open up and you can use characters that you had like sidelined in your previous playthrough of the game because you can change at any time.
Party members not in the active party will still gain experience, which is a change from the original release. There will be new playable characters plus new story content that, according to the previews, is like integrated into the game. It's not a separate menu option or anything like that.
I wonder if like just because like this game has a reputation for being good, but is a Wii U game, right? That it's been 10 years. It's been 10
since
years.
The first one,
right?
Or since it was originally released in 2015.
That like it has a reputation, but like I don't know that anyone like. Well, I'm sure there are some people that know the game super well, but it's just kind of like it's being reintroduced. Like add new characters, add new story elements. Like let's just like make this. It can't be like totally remade, but we can add stuff to it.
Right. Yeah. And it feels like that's a great way to do it for both people who have played the game before.
Totally, yeah.
Because then they'll experience the new content, and then for people who are picking it up for the first time, it'll all be new to them, so it could just be an integrated experience.
Yeah.
There's a lot more. There were a lot of like details about how missions are handled and all that kind of stuff that were way over my head because I wasn't familiar with the game, but it does seem like a pretty extensive remake, or I guess definitive edition.
Yes. What does that mean? Is that a remake? Is that a remaster? What is it?
So it comes out on March 20th, and like you said, that's the Nintendo game for the month,
right?
And possibly for April. We don't know.
Well, here's the thing. Mark and I talked about this off mic yesterday, but that is the event horizon for Nintendo new releases. Once we cross March 20th, which is a scant fewer than 3 weeks away, we will have no more release dates for Nintendo products.
Yeah, we know, that Legends EA is coming in late 2025, and we know that Metroid Prime 4 is coming sometime in 2025. But as far as like actual dated Nintendo releases, this is it.
This is it. And I obviously expect that to change on April 2nd. But that's that's 13 days of not really knowing stuff. That's cool.
Yeah. By the time you're listening to this, there's a good chance that Activision will have announced Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 and 4 remakes for basically all platforms, including Switch. They've been teasing some sort of announcement for Tony Hawk since the end of February, and it's leading up to today, March 4th. a Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3+4 remake was recently rated in Singapore for basically all platforms, including Switch.
Right.
I'm not like I had 1 and 2 on the Nintendo 64, so the inferior versions, but 3 and 4 I'm not really that familiar with.
I know 3's got a good reputation and has there's a lot of cool and crazy stuff in there. Is 3 where they introduced Darth Maul, or is Darth Maul in 2?
I'm not sure. It must be 3. I don't think it was in 2.
Okay. So get this game if you want to skateboard as Darth Maul.
Do you think
Do I think
that Darth Maul would be in a remake of Tony Hawk Pro Skater?
If he's not, then why even release it?
My worry is that
that now he belongs to Disney, and
they've just been a little more reluctant to have Star Wars be in things this way. Like, back when George Lucas was running Star Wars, there would be Duracell commercials that were making, that were like tongue-in-cheek poking fun at Star Wars. Right. And I think Disney's been a little bit more protective. Pro Skater 3 is great. Where Darth Maul came into the series. But it would be great. I hope he is. I hope him and Kylo Ren are out there grinding the boards.
Sure.
That's
I think that's like theater. Treading the boards. I do like that the countdown is leading to March 4th, which is 3-4 for the announcement of Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3+4. That's fun. That's a good little bit of like using the not naturally occurring, but like men invented that. But a thing that is already there to market this. It's a fun little trick.
The Super Nintendo game Super Soccer is being removed from Nintendo Switch Online on March 27th or March 28th, depending on your location. This is the first time that a game has been taken off of Nintendo Switch Online since the service began in 2018.
Do we know why?
No, Nintendo hasn't said. They just sent out a really short message that just says this game will no longer be available as of March 27th, essentially.
Well, that's interesting. And so Super Soccer has been part of the library since the Super NES library launched in September of 2019. So it's been there for a while, and is definitely a game that I've never turned on.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I can only assume that nobody turned it on. And so I wonder if we have here in our notes it's a Spike Chunsoft release, but there are a handful of those in all the other libraries as well. But I wonder if there's just if they have numbers on how frequently people are playing all of these games, and that people are playing Super Soccer so infrequently that it's not worth the however modest licensing fee to Spike Chunsoft to keep it on the platform.
Yeah, that's a good question. I wonder. Because like you said, it's been basically 5.5 years.
Yes.
So was the contract for the initial agreement for 5.5 years?
Or was it just for 5 years and then they reached a point where they had to renegotiate it and are going month to month afterwards, and then are
it's like a lease.
I mean, who knows?
Right?
You know?
Yeah, and then talks broke down, or they just decided to not do it, or whatever.
Yeah, or they that we're just now to the point where they have to start making these decisions of okay, is it worth it for us to keep this one on here? And I think probably helps that it's a pretty low profile release, and no one. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe someone will miss it, but no one's gonna miss it when it's gone, right?
It could also be, and this is total speculation.
Yeah, here we go.
But it could also be something I don't know. Spike Chunsoft has decided that they are going to bundle a bunch of their old sports games into a release, because we saw with Ninja 5.0 and a lot of games this generation that normally would be on Virtual Console. The third-party publishers have just sold themselves on the eShop. Right. And so maybe it's
I would agree with you if it were something not Super Soccer, right?
Well, a collection. A collection. Yeah, they're going to bundle these games together. But yeah, it's hard to read too much into it when we know so little.
Right.
But it is interesting that we've gone so long without a game being delisted, and now we know that, like, we could probably
we know
do
that's
it.
possible now.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
it would happen at some point. But yeah, we joked about it at the beginning, but play your Quest for Camelot while you can, because you never know.
That's right. And maybe even play your GoldenEye, right? Like,
Right.
there's some, we kind of like pop for the rare Nintendo 64 games showing up on NSO, and we're obviously missing a handful of them still. But it's like, oh yeah, who knows how long that like everyone will just be like chill with that arrangement, or like chill with spending the money to make that arrangement go. Because all of these things, if it's not Nintendo putting a first-party game that they published and developed originally, they're spending some kind of money to keep that game on the service, right? And there obviously must just come a point where they like have to make decisions about like how much return do they ever get on these things. And because it is a Nintendo Switch Online thing, and you have to be like online, not all the time, but like pretty regularly in order to like ping the server and get access to the libraries, they know exactly how long you're playing every game, right?
You're right.
And so like if they're looking at it and like over the last 3 years we've racked up 45 minutes of gameplay in Super Soccer amongst all players, why would they spend any money to keep it up there?
Yeah. It's a good point. Kirby and Smash creator Masahiro Sakurai has been given an award by the Japanese government's Agency for Cultural Affairs. He shared this on Twitter that he received the annual Art Encouragement Prize for New Artists, and it was awarded for his YouTube channel, Masahiro Sakurai on Creating Games.
Which I guess actually makes the Art Encouragement Prize make sense.
Right, yes, exactly. For new artists.
Yes.
I think it's encouragement for new artists.
I understand, yes.
Yeah, which is pretty cool.
He's not like over there cheering on a painting.
And he
You're
himself,
so bright!
He himself is not considered a new artist.
That's right.
And then he was also awarded a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Association of Media in Digital in Japan. Yeah, kind of fun to see him officially recognized.
For his YouTube channel.
Right,
okay. Which was very good.
Yeah.
And when he revealed the prestige at the end there, was a very impressive feat of programming 2 years in advance, and then just like knocking out these videos and these scripts with an insane. I don't know how he does it.
Still is so crazy to think about that he did all of that in like a matter of months.
Right. Just nuts. But yeah, of course, he's a genius and should be recognized as such. Just strange that it is for his YouTube channel.
Finally, I just wanted to shout out that the day we're recording this, March 3rd, is the 8th anniversary of the Nintendo Switch launching and Breath of the Wild releasing.
Which, yeah, that's
crazy.
That's crazy. Yeah. Wow, how far we've come, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it on the show before, but that is one, just, like, such a fond memory for me, is we had pre-ordered from the same Best Buy, and waiting outside that night with a bunch of other people that were excited for their Nintendo Switches.
Yep.
And being let into Best Buy, picking up your Switch, getting your copy of Breath of the Wild, going home, booting it up, turning it on, taking the plastic off, inhaling all the microplastics that
that would later find their way into our testicles.
Exactly, yeah.
It was a beautiful, and like I had taken the next day off from work because I wanted to stay home and like play my Switch all day. And I mostly played Shovel Knight, Plague of Shadows. No, Shovel of no. Which one is it? Spectre of Torment. The Spectre Knight campaign. But then shifting into Breath of the Wild and discovering that not only is it like very good, but it's like a singular experience perfectly suited for the Switch itself, and that we would all, like, everyone who had one of these things, everyone who was like plugged into video games, would have their own stories that sounded like when you got together with people, it sounded like when you met up after the first year of college, right? To be like, why are you dressed like that? Why? Tell me about the foods you've been eating, Like, it's all very, it was a very cool experience.
And if Nintendo, for whatever reason, on April 2nd, announces that they're doing pre-orders for the Switch 2 online through their own store for like Nintendo Switch Online subscribers, like I of course am going to do that. But I really
want to wait in line.
I really do. There was something really fun about having that communal experience and having everybody excited for the same thing. So I'm hoping that to have the chance to do that again this year.
Yeah, I wonder if there's a way for us to do something like that wouldn't be standing in line. That would be like having a party somewhere, and like getting like our other like podcast friends around to like enjoy Switch together for like the first night. Or I don't know. I'm spitballing here a little bit.
That's something like that would be fun. We'll have to think about it.
All right, great. Mark, let's get out of the news. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Remember, if you're not in our Discord, you should be. Email us, Nintendo Cartridge Society
at gmail.com.
And we will add you in there by sending you an invitation. You have to add yourself. I can't add you. I can send you an invitation, and then you can come on in. And of course, don't forget, we need your predictions for what is going to happen on April 2nd. Email us, and we will include them in the predictions episode. You have until March 26th at noon to get those into us. Anthony DeLuca made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Ellers saying thank you for listening.